Hello, welcome to the CSA Leaders Network Organizers Toolkit, Part 3, Planning the First Meeting. Here's how you create the first invitation for your first meeting. So the organizer or organizers need to select a venue based on the 10% rule for the first meeting that they'd like to have, and they will be given an invite template form, and they need to fill that out in its entirety. Now, if you remember, the 10% rule is that based on the number of CSAs in the area, the geographic area that has been selected for a particular group, all of those invitations will go out, and about 10%, 7 to 10%, will most likely attend that first meeting. So in your invite template, we want to make sure that you pick the date. I suggest that the organizer just pick the date. There is never one date that's great for everybody. But look at the holidays scheduled at that period of time and other conflicts. Are there big conferences? Are there big events going on in your community that you'd like to avoid? Time is also a challenge. There are always issues with traffic and whether people have school-age children or not. There's many different personal concerns and business concerns. But what we found around the country at this point is that mornings seem to be the most popular. There are some groups that meet very early, others that meet after the traffic has subsided a little bit. There are some groups that meet in the evening, which would be maybe around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, but it's up to you. The organizer is just so wonderful that you've stepped forward to want to do this and should go by what's convenient for you at first. Location can sometimes be a concern for a lot of organizers, but with the 10% rule, usually you get a small number of people that come out to the first meeting, and actually that's a good thing. It's a lot easier to work with smaller groups in terms of direction and getting consensus than it is to initially start to work with a very large group. So don't be discouraged by a small number in the first turnout. So you can use conference rooms, restaurants, senior communities. You can be very creative. Many times restaurants that have little private room or area at no cost works out really well for many groups. If someone does have a conference room, that's terrific and ideal. So you need to always be very clear every time you meet, not just for the first invitation, but what is the purpose of the meeting? Why should people take the time to come? The subject line of the email or the invite will be really critical. So we have to make sure that is right on target. And you're going to ask for RSVPs, and you need to determine the person who will be receiving the RSVP, if it's the original organizer or if there's someone else you're working with. So phone and email are all that are necessary for the RSVP. So 6 weeks before the meeting, we'd like to get this invite template completed and sent to the CSA liaison so that we can prepare it to be sent out. SCSA will send out the invite, and it is emailed 4 weeks prior and then 2 weeks prior for the first meeting only. So how do you prepare for the first meeting? As the RSVPs come in, you're going to collect the positive responses, but then also make note of those who are interested but can't attend that particular meeting. Many times people will say, oh, I'm not available that date, but keep me on the list. As CSAs and CSA candidates, they'll always receive the invites unless they choose to unsubscribe. There is sometimes another concern too. Many times people change their email addresses and have not informed the Society of Certified Senior Advisors. So we have to make sure that when people say they're not receiving an invite, that we are contacted here at SCSA so we can check the database to see that we're sending it to the correct email address. You always need to confirm with your location, the location, day, and time with the venue that you've selected for your first meeting. Just because you've set it up ahead of time, don't think that they all have the information accurate. So it's always good to confirm. There will be an agenda template form that you'll be given for first meetings, and you can complete that and then make copies for all the attendees at the meetings and make some extras in case some people show up without RSVPing, which happens quite often. You'll also be given a form for a sign-in sheet, and that will be made available to you too. So make a copy and have the sign-in sheet so that all people can sign in. You want to keep track of who's coming and then eventually who becomes a member. It's good to supply name tags, markers, pens, and you'll be given a meeting and event checklist that will help you with that type of thing. We want to encourage you always to take photos of any meetings or events and send it electronically to the Society of Certified Senior Advisor Liaison, because then we will keep the photos for you to use on your web page. We'll also have them for your social media, and you can post them as well, but we keep a record of all of that for you. So where to meet and when to meet? There is no perfect time and place. As I said before, you'll never please everyone as far as this is concerned, based on locale and business reasons and personal reasons. So keep track of major networking events in your area. So where are CSAs going already? Are they attending certain networking groups? You want to either avoid conflicting with these meetings, or you can choose either in the early stages or ongoing to meet before or after very well established networking meetings that CSAs are already attending. They've made that commitment of time, and it's also a way too, if you find that these are really valuable groups with great strategic partnerships, it's great for CSAs who aren't aware of these groups to become aware. So each group can help the other. We do suggest monthly meetings, but that is not mandatory. As far as I know, most groups are meeting monthly, some every other month, but mostly monthly. When you meet regularly, when you're starting out and you don't have large numbers of people attending your meetings, CSA is just like any busy business person, needs to see that, is this group viable? Are they consistently meeting? Are they doing things that bring me value? So that's how you demonstrate too, by monthly meeting. It's great to suggest that the same day of the week or time of day be consistent with your meetings, whether they be monthly or otherwise. And locations can be the same each time, or they can vary. Certain groups will meet at different locations all the time, others at the same location all the time, and some do a mixture. The following list are just bonuses to meeting places and are certainly not mandatory, but they can help you in many ways. So Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi is terrific because sometimes you like to get on the internet, review different websites, and there's different types of programs that may ask the CSAs to bring their laptops and engage in the use of the internet. Having a screen and projector available is of great benefit. Free and plentiful parking is a wonderful bonus. If you find that you've selected a location where parking is a nightmare, this can deter people from coming to your meetings. I would also look at your metropolitan area and the traffic patterns, times of day, as well as, does the city have a north, south, east, or west cutoff where people on the east side won't go to the west side or vice versa? I mean, it's very difficult. And sometimes what ends up happening is you can establish a metro group originally, and then over time, it is no problem to develop a north, south, east, or west different groups that would make it easier for people to get to. It's great if there are flexible seating arrangements, possibly tables in the round, classroom style, rows of chairs. If it's nice to have that. Tables are great, though. It's so much easier to take notes when you have a table in front of you, especially too if there is food and beverage being served, that they have a place to put things down. If you've got a kitchen or a beverage station, that's really a great bonus too. Lots of times I get the question from groups to charge or not to charge. So some groups operate at no charge with no fee whatsoever, not monthly or not annually. Others do a pay-as-you-go, so each time someone comes to a meeting, there might be a small fee to cover something like food and beverage. You can also look at sponsorship too, if you want to go down that road, if particular CSAs want to sponsor a meeting and provide something to eat or drink. The collection of dues then gets you into what we had talked about earlier on in this series with the need for a treasurer, checking account, IRS reporting, and 501c6 status. So you need to decide what works best for you as a group. So here are some guidelines for your very first meeting. You as the organizer need to be a facilitator. The attendees have to have the opportunity to express their feelings, provided they know why they're there. What is the purpose and goal of the meeting? And what are they looking for in a group of CSAs? What would be different from other groups that exist, from typical networking groups or leads groups? You want to get them involved in discussion about their mission, vision, and values, how they see the group, and see, is there a common thread between the majority of people? It may never be unanimous, and that has to be expected. And while this is going on, look for leadership. You as an organizer are a leader, but there are other leaders that you want. As we discussed earlier, it's important to have other people involved in the process with you in terms of positions or committee chair positions. Look for interest in programming and continuing education, membership, community outreach committees. You want others engaged. And then you're going to determine where you go from there. Has the group come to some consensus that they want to try to form the group, to meet regularly, and then you need to determine what those next steps will be. I do not recommend ever starting right off the bat with a program or a program with continuing education. I also don't recommend using a certain business to promote and allowing them to promote themselves at all, let alone in the early stages. We don't want to turn people off and having that feeling they're being sold to. That isn't what this is about. This is not what the CSA Leaders Network groups are. So be very careful about that. So here's a reminder. The ideas in these presentations are just suggestions. We wanted you to have a place to start, and we certainly welcome other ideas, and we'll share these ideas with all the national groups. The ultimate goal is to unite CSAs and help everyone do well while doing good. And the SCSA liaison is always ready to help and assist you in any way possible. Thank you for listening to the CSA Leaders Network Organizers Toolkit Part 3, Planning the First Meeting.